Today's episode comes to you from Hyde Park, Vermont, where we meet with Ryan Demarest and Genica Breitenbach. They run two businesses off their farm of less than 3 acres. Ryan runs Naked Acre Farm, and Genica runs a gardening service called HomeFront Gardens. Together, we sat down as they shared their winding paths into agriculture. They share the challenges they faced finding access to land and why they decided to settle here in Vermont, all while making the decision to purchase by digging through the snow in the middle of winter to take a look at the soil. Ryan and Genica share how they bootstrapped their way to build a sustainable farm business, which is now in their 10th year of farming. They open up and share how they navigated some stressful seasons of farming, and their plans to maintain the current size of their farm and not expand beyond their intensively managed land that they're working now. This episode contains 2 parts of the conversation. The first hour and 20 minutes is a sit-down discussion talking about their farm story, and the remaining 40 minutes of the show features a walking tour of the farm, where you can listen to the rain as we walk between the high tunnels and rows of kale. So, first of all, thanks for being on the show, and thanks for sharing your story a little bit.
Thanks for having us.
If we could get started, just introduce yourselves and where we're at.
My name is Ryan Demarest. We are at Naked Acre Farm in Hyde Park, Vermont.
And I'm Genica Breitenbach, partly of Naked Acre Farm, but mostly of HomeFront Gardens, 2 separate businesses here.
So this place is actually called Naked HomeFront, I guess. That's basically what it is.
The Naked Homefront.
Yeah.
So if you could describe your farm or your business in one sentence, what would you say?
It's a small-scale, diversified, organic vegetable operation, selling to CSA and restaurants and wholesale.
HomeFront Gardens would be a landscape garden service that's focused on informed plant care and a focus on soil health and therefore plant health.
So I guess, Ryan, give a little bit of a background as far as growing acre, or you mentioned wholesale. Tell me a little bit about your markets.
So I first started just kind of on a half acre and started cold calling restaurants in the area. I was down in Waterbury, and I just sort of went into restaurants and said, I have vegetables. Do you use vegetables? Do you want them? And do you want them from me? And some of those accounts that I started with, I still have today, which has been great. So mostly Waterbury, Stowe, Morrisville area, a little bit in Hardwick, but for the most part, restaurants and small markets like Village Market and Commodities and Stowe for retail bags and things like that. So a lot of chefs.
Are you working with a distributor or straight to those chefs?
Straight to the chefs. Yep.
Yeah.
No, I just me in that yellow box truck every week. Used to be a truck, but it was a Subaru before that. So
you started on a half acre. What are you up to now?
That probably around between 2 and 2.5 this year. The last 2 years it was 3, and I tried to scale back a little bit this year for different reasons, but probably under 2.5 or right around there at this point this year.
And it's you and how big's your crew?
2 people part-time. So this is actually only my 4th year with a crew. And last year, 2 people last year, both part-time. I had last year was basically me and 1 full-time equivalent. This year is basically me and maybe 50 hours or so of 2 people coming in, helping mostly with wash pack on wash pack days, but then on work days as well. And then I have 1 employee who's really great, just phenomenal, natural, never been on a farm, and just loves the work, natural. And they are leaving in mid-August. So I'm going to cry a tear in August. So, small crew.
Are you going to try to find somebody to
Yes. Do you know anybody?
No.
I'm looking, definitely. I don't have a huge social media presence, and I think that certainly helps with finding employees. But just kind of looking in the typical avenues and just trying to find somebody to replace them when they leave. Yep.
Let's just get a little bit of an overview from your business. What types of stuff do you do?
Sure. Well, HomeFront Gardens it primarily started out as just a gardening service. I had worked at a local plant nursery for 9 years prior, and with a little overlap with the business. But I kind of weaned myself off of working for other people when I started the business officially. And, but I have a background in architectural design and art. And so working in a spatial environment with gardens has been a really natural fit. Though I never worked in an architecture firm, and I always worked on outside jobs, from Cornell plant breeding to organic farm to plant nurseries. So, but I imagine myself kind of getting into cut flowers, and it just wasn't sustainable because I had some great gardening clients, but I couldn't financially, and I didn't want to give up that aspect of my business to just concentrate on growing cut flowers. So I've just whittled it down to some nursery beds, which I grow crops for my own clients, and then have some edible flowers for local chefs. So it's been a really nice fit for the gardening business.
It seems unique, the type of business you're doing. I haven't really heard of that as a common thing for a flower business.
Yeah, I mean, it's very small amounts of revenue that I'm making as far as my overall breakdown, but I could certainly I'm trying to expand probably in the next couple of years with the edible flowers, but doing some family growing at this point instead, and just trying to keep my many gardens going with the introduction of an employee or two this year. Yeah.
So you haven't had a crew before now?
No, I've had a couple, just spot workers here and there doing big installations. And, you need someone for a couple days here and there. But it's really just been me. But I've got about 30 regular gardens, and it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
For one person, especially if you're pregnant. So, which is the case this year. So, it's been great to have help and things get done a lot faster.
We don't get out much from May to October, September. Yeah. So
not many farmers.
No, none of us
tend to.
I know. But I mean, she's very busy as well. No, I mean, I guess just from a background, like how I got into farming in the first place. You're just interested in here? Okay.
Absolutely, yeah.
Very cool.
What made you decide to be a farmer?
Thank you. Very good question. So I was a wilderness guide before I started farming, and don't have any background in growing at all. We didn't have a garden growing up or anything like that. And my mom she's definitely a plant person, but mostly houseplants and things like that. So we didn't have any growing stuff. But I was a wilderness guide, like month off, month on in the field with at-risk youth, and came to a point. I was living out of my Subaru in Oregon during the time, and it came to a point where I just was like exhausted with that type of lifestyle and wanted a little more comfort, like a nice bed. And a friend of mine, Mickey, hooked me up with some people that were living on a farm in Oregon outside Corvallis, and so I did an apprenticeship when I was in my off time. So the apprenticeship was basically like May, and then I would be a month in the field, then it would be like July. So I'd see like snippets of the farm. but I fell in love with it and decided to come back after working in wilderness in Colorado for a little bit on my way back to Vermont. And then I did the farmer training program for 6 months and started the business after that. A funny thing, I was thinking about this today. I remember when I first met those people at the farm, went over for the first night, she gave me a bowl, and this is a little bit of an embarrassing story. She said, can you go out into the greenhouse and cut a salad? And I walked out to the greenhouse with a bowl and scissors, and I was like, what do I do? What you know, it's really funny thinking about it now. And then 3 years later, I had a business. So it was a fast trajectory towards having, and with very little knowledge. So those first few years were super challenging, learning how to do it well, or even bad, learning how to do it at all.
So the farm that taught you how to pick a salad, you were only there for a season?
Not even, like 4 months. 5 months, something like that. Yeah. And different growing, obviously, because it's Oregon. So, like I said, I would see the farm for a month, and then I would have a month off because I would be in the woods, right, in the wilderness. So it wasn't really a good, from an educational standpoint, it wasn't very, it wasn't a good educational experience.
Yeah, you weren't exposed to the trajectory of the season.
No. You'd plant something, and then you'd get home, and it was already like gone and replaced with something else. Like, where'd that thing go that we planted, a month ago? So.
What types of things were you doing on this wilderness?
So actually I started in Vermont. I don't know if you heard of True North. They're down in Waitsfield. That's originally how I got into it, and I worked for them for a couple of years and then moved out west and did it in Oregon and also in Colorado. But it was basically wilderness therapy. So kids would come with an assortment of whatever, if it was psychological issues or substance abuse problems, things like that. And there was a specific kind of just program that they would work through and learn. And so wilderness being the backdrop for the whole setting, removing distractions, all that, so you can focus on the things that you want to change.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
I'm always curious about career paths or job opportunities. How did you find that? Or what led you into that direction? I don't know. I mean, I've always been interested in outdoors activities, hiking and, things like that, and backpacking. And, I think the woman that I was with at the time found an ad for True North somewhere. I don't even remember where it was. And she's like, oh, I should check this out. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And it's outdoorsy.
Yeah, it's outdoorsy. And, I was in the Peace Corps prior to that, so I was like, I could rough it pretty well, and then I, applied and got the job and started there, and then kind of moved out. It was a little more rugged in Oregon. The treks were significantly longer and in way more remote areas, so it was super challenging work, and high burnout, and kind of similar to what I'm doing now in that respect anyway, high burnout job. So, it was super rewarding work and very challenging work. And I loved it until I hated it. So,
do you think that, helped you personally as much as it helped the people you were working with?
I think so. Maybe not as much, but there were definitely certain benefits and rewards to being out in the woods and, having super challenging situations with people that obviously did not want to be in the woods, people that had no experience being in the woods, and trying to train them. And it was cool because especially in that program in Oregon, you would form essentially a little family for a month, and you'd be out in the woods on your own, isolated, and dynamics would come up, and there'd be hard times and good times, and it was cool. It was unique.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So then you got exposed to this farm, and you thought, this seems kind of interesting.
It was essentially the opposite of what I was doing. It was grounded. It was in the soil. It was like focused on one specific place. You didn't have to go anywhere unless you were obviously delivering, but there were the friends of my friend Mickey, they were doing their own situation there, and they were growing. So I got to learn from them because they were very different growers than the person, Harry, who owned the farm, who was a self-proclaimed cosmological farmer, farmed by the constellations, and was like, he was out there. It was really cool. And so to experience a farm from that perspective, and then also the other people that had their own little greenhouse, and it was kind of, I learned a lot from all those different types of people, and just fell in love with the work. And so I knew that I wanted to try and keep going with it and start something. I didn't know exactly what it was. I was with another person at that point, and we were going to start a life together, surrounded, by, on a farm situation. And that didn't work out, obviously, because here we are. And but I did continue with that passion of starting a farm. So, and the farming training program was absolutely, it was an amazing summer. I learned so much, and it just kind of further instilled the love of farming and growing vegetables specifically, the work.
How would you describe that farmer training program? Is it more like a on-farm internship or a classroom setting? Like, I know it's not in a classroom, it's on a farm, but
some of it is in a classroom.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a mix of everything. There's a lot of practical hands-on experience at the Hort farm. Also, there's experiences like, I think there's farm partners. It's changed pretty dramatically, I think, since I was there. Half Pint was a farm, and we'd go and do. You'd work there once a day if that was part of your rotation. I think Intervale Community Farm is still a partner there, so you get experiences at other farms, and then there's the home farm that you would do, and then there were classes, soil education, pest disease management, Vern, I think, taught a class, and so you have access to all those folks as well.
I've heard from several people who have been through that program. As I'm working with many young farmers in Vermont, that makes sense.
Yeah, it was great.
So you went through the farmer training program, and then you decided, okay, now I'm going to do my own thing. How did you get started there? Did you have a backyard to start in, or?
No, we found, was it on Craigslist? We found somebody who was leasing their land or wanted to have a farming component to the different things that were happening on their property. And so I reached out to them, and we were going to live in Waterbury, this person that I was with, and we were going to live it was in Waterbury, and we were going to live in Waterbury, and I was just going to commute to the farm. But that winter, 2013, we broke up, and so I asked them if I could live on the farm, and that's the pop-up camper story. So I bought a pop-up. That first year, no water, no electricity, just in the camper, and so that's when I started on the half acre, and then the next year expanded to an acre, still in the camper, but was able to put an extension cord into the camper, so I had some electricity, which was
Progress.
a luxury. Yeah, progress. Yep. And then that lease ended, and I met somebody who offered their space, some very more sloped than this land, even up. I'm in Waterbury up the road. And so I moved the operation up there and was there for 2 years. And I expanded to about an acre and a half there. And then in 2016, we met.
Right, but that was your third year of farming, so your first year at the second.
Yes, that's true.
Land.
That's true, yeah. It was the first year on that. Yeah, my timeline is messed up. It seems like ages ago, and it's all blurry. But yeah, we met, and I think 2 weeks after we met, we started looking for property. Not really talking about that we were looking for property, but we were looking for property together because I think we were ready. We met each other older, and as we were a little older in life. And I remember coming back from that place and driving around, and we stopped and looked at this property, and we kind of both knew what was happening, but weren't really discussing it, talking about it. So it was a fast trajectory for us as well, I would say. And I guess I could just launch into the Denny story, I guess.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah. So we were looking, we found a spot in Johnson, and it was a 60-acre farm, and there was a guy so there was a piece of property that we were looking at. It was flat, it was about 50 acres of woods, 10 open acres of just flat, it was great. Flattish. Flatter than here.
Flat for Vermont.
It's flatter than here for sure. It was definitely. And so, but it was very overpriced. It was we thought it was anyway. It was out of our price range anyway. So I remember what did we do? We decided he was kind of an old school Vermonter. So we ended up running into somebody that knew him in the supermarket. And she gave us the advice of giving him a bottle of Crown Royal and like asking him very nicely with an offer. And so I remember we were parked on the road and we wrote this handwritten card and, this is our offer. I hope you can respect it. We want to stay on the land and keep it in, in agriculture and production. And we gave him the bottle and the handwritten card. And I don't think we ever even heard back. Did we?
No, we didn't give it straight to him because he wasn't around when we dropped by his office. But that's okay. It's in maple production now, which is
it's
probably
still in maple production.
Is perfectly fine that it is.
Yeah. We like to think of him, well, not like to, but we imagine him just kind of laughing at us and laughing at the offer because it was like less than half of what he wanted.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, 3 days later, I was still farming in Waterbury. She was living in Morrisville with her business. And 3 days later, the realtor for that property contacted us and said, there's this piece of property for sale that just came on the market. And it had been in the market for 3 days, and it was in February. That was in February, remember? And there was snow on the ground. And she called me at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It was like, hey, you want to come look at this piece of property? And so I got a shovel and we walked into the woods. There was no driveway here or anything, so you had to walk through the woods to get in here. And we kind of dug the snow up and dug in the soil and checked out the soil, and it was just beautiful. We were like, oh, this is awesome. This looks so good.
It was quite something because you kind of had to descend from the far corner of the field, and it was kind of a mild winter, so it was a little misty, but it was all snow covered, and we kept digging hole after hole and seeing this like really chocolatey brown, beautiful soil, and we're like, this is a good sign.
It was. And we went back and did a web soil survey, and it's like, the meadow here, you kind of saw, it's surrounded by woods. It's like kind of like a kidney bean sort of shape. It's like prime ag soil that follows the tree line. It's like this pocket of prime ag soil. And so we put an offer in, and the soil was prime, the soil looked beautiful, and we put an offer in February. And
what was interesting is we didn't know about contingencies in realty offers, and our realtor taught us that we can just say, hey, we got to see what the soil test results are.
Right.
And then, but we would like to put an offer in. And
contingent on that.
Yeah, the former owners who were selling it were started asking some questions like, oh, they have a tiny house, because I had built the tiny house before I met Ryan, thinking it was my best option to buy something for myself so I could start my little gardening nursery business. And so they started asking questions, and we just requested to meet the owners. And we brought a pie to that meeting in our business plans, and that made all the difference. And it kind of began our relationship, which we still have with the former owners, which is really incredible. We usually have an annual visit with them. So it's a special thing.
Are they still close by?
Jericho.
Yeah.
Oh,
yep. And I mean, they had some small ag stuff that did. She told us stories of they used to hay this field with a Buick. And so there's a big apple tree over here. Yeah. And she said that they would have the rake and they would like back the Buick up into the rake, into the tree. So it would like slam into the Buick. And then they would drive it around the field. And I don't know. I still am trying to picture it, but that's how they would hay the field around here. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, back in the late 70s,
Yeah.
I think.
Yep. So she really took a liking to us because we wanted to continue this process of having, agriculture here on the property. And so, I mean, we had a USDA loan, and that was months and months and months. So it took a lot longer than typical closing would on the property. And so she was really patient with us, and I felt like it was a very special connection to have with this person and in our search for land. And like Genica said, it continues to this day. And she's popped in a couple times this summer just to say hi, and she's great. So, but that's all roundabout way of how we got here.
So what year was that you ended up purchasing this property?
That was in late July of 2017.
Oh, okay.
And then we were able to move the tiny house here in early December, like right before a massive snowstorm. So we got here just in the nick of time.
Yeah. Yeah, because we were staying at down the road at a friend's house, and that's where she started building the house. And
How many years were you trying to find land?
6 months, 4 months.
Okay,
Something like it was quick. Yeah.
Yeah, together, I would say I had been looking for maybe a year and a half. I used to own something with an ex-partner in Jeffersonville, but that was just not with any kind of land at all to it. But it was, once you've owned something, you don't want to rent something. You just want to, to go on your merry way. So,
to give you an idea of time frame, we met in August, put an offer in February, although the first offer at that place in Johnson was in December, I think, and then February, and then we closed in July, so less than a year. We were married within 6 months. I think for 7.
8 months. Yeah.
April. We met in August, got married in April.
So you had land before you were legally...
No, we legally, that's another whole thing. So with our USDA loan, there was a more favorable interest rate if we were married. And so we were working with somebody at the office who was a pretty matter-of-fact, straightforward guy. And I remember he told us about the different rates, and I said, well, what if we're together? He said, well, it's this rate. And I said, well, what if we're married? He said, well, that would be a better rate. And so I said, can I call you right back? And I called Genica, and I was like, Genica, we have to get married today. And sure enough, we went down to the town hall in Morrisville and got our license and got married. And I called the guy back the next day and I said, okay, we're married now, so can we get that interest rate? I mean, it's not the most romantic thing. We did have a very romantic ceremony in August. Yeah, we got married in April, so a few months after we met.
Yep.
6 months.
But the fun part was that I just happened to know someone who was able to legally marry people or officiate weddings.
Yeah.
So I texted them, and they thought it was a joke at first. They're like, wait, who are you marrying? Because he's someone from Jeffersonville, so kind of from the ski community that I'm part of. And
that's right, yeah. That was at the tavern.
Married in the Village Tavern in Jeffersonville, and half the people at the bar knew me.
Tony was there.
Didn't know Ryan at all. And we're just like, wow, Genica just got married.
Cheers!
It was great.
It was quite celebratory.
It was awesome. Yeah, then he's like, all he wanted in payment was a shot of Jameson and a Budweiser. So it was
Done
great.
deal.
Yeah, it was awesome. That was a really good day.
Yeah, that was great.
No, I was just thinking about, one of the struggles for new farmers now is just trying to find land, trying to get access to land, and it sounds like you were able to find a good option relatively quickly.
Yeah.
in your situation, thankfully.
Yeah. I think, that story of digging in the snow, I wish that, we obviously didn't see all the rocks. So that was not a great, I mean, the land is productive, and we feel very fortunate. And I can't even imagine what it would be like now, especially post-COVID when, prices spiked significantly for land around here, especially. So it seemed to be like really the very right timing. So we feel fortunate for that.
Yeah.
The other thing was neither one of us had a ton of savings because I would put it all back into the farm, and Genica put it into the house that she was building. So luckily for us, the lending that we had was great. I mean, we were able to finance 90% of the property essentially, so 95, I think it was. So that was very helpful, obviously.
Was that a very difficult decision, obviously, taking on that much debt, or was it more of a no-brainer because this is the direction you're headed and you need land?
I mean, I'll let you speak to it, but for me, it was a no-brainer because we didn't really have any other option anyway. So, I knew that I had encountered all the pitfalls of leasing ag land, and I partly I am at fault for that. I'm not good at leasing. I don't think, there's things that I want to do, and I want to be able to have, free reign on the land. And so, I think leasing was getting tiring, and I think it was just the best option that we had. And it wasn't, I mean, it's expensive, but it wasn't like there was nothing here. So it wasn't like there was a house here that we were also paying in the mortgage. It was raw land with no driveway, no water, no electric, nothing. Like the first few, I don't even know how long was it that we were just driving through the woods to get into the property. There was like an old logging road that we obviously made it better by driving down, but it was like really challenging even just getting in here when we first got here, and then I was farming in Waterbury, living in Morrisville, getting this place set up too. That first year was pretty crazy.
Yeah, so let's see, Waterbury's about an hour?
No, like a half hour.
Oh,
yeah.
Right, this side of the mountain.
Yeah.
But still, there's a commute between living and working and
I mean,
you
forget to close the greenhouse door or open it, or that's always stressful. It was stressful that year for doing that, but yeah, and then we just kind of slowly built it up here and got electric in here. I remember those first couple years, or at least the first year, the whole farm was run on 4 outlets, including the house. So
tied to the
maybe
grid.
Cut that out. Yeah, tied to the grid. Yeah, we brought it down, and yeah.
That was just off a temporary electrical
drop.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah. And we only had a partially made driveway by hunting season, and then it dumped. We did get the tiny house down here somehow. It was a miracle, I think. And and the next day, I think it snowed about a foot of snow, and we're like, okay, we're here. We've got no water, but we do have electric, which was great.
Yeah. Yeah, we didn't have water for a little while, but.
Were you just hauling it in?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
What was your source? Where were you getting it?
From our friend's house.
The well where we were living.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and we got some maple totes, and I would just go and fill it up and bring it here. And we had this like pump, like shallow well pump situation that I set up, and it worked for watering the seedlings in the spring. The seedlings were treated way better than the growers, I would say, that first spring. Yeah. But then we were like, what's wrong with us? We got to just get a well. We did. So, yeah. We were, luckily that the well was able to be, there was some clause or some part of our mortgage that we were able to wrap it into our mortgage. So we didn't have to, pay for it right up front, which was great.
Yeah, that's good.
We'll pay for it for 30 years, I
right.
guess, instead. Right. Yeah, it's probably like, will cost 3 times what it was by the end or something.
Right. Yeah, you'll pay more for it in the long run, but You didn't need to front that.
Yeah.
Genica, give me a little bit about how you got into the ag space.
I think it probably started back over a summer job. I happened to go to school in Geneva, New York, which of course there's a wonderful experimental station there with the New York State Ag Extension. And I wish I had been more involved back then because I would have really loved to check out all the apple trees there. But I had friends down at Cornell, which was only an hour drive, and ended up living down in Ithaca for a summer. And I worked at Cornell plant breeding and with the alfalfa program, and got to see some long-term plant breeding in the old-fashioned way. There was one professor who was retired, but he'd been working from a post-grad student in 1948 to what that would have been 2004 or something. So, I mean, that was really cool to think about that longevity and vision. And it started to kind of push me in that direction a little bit more. The following year, I worked at a blue heron farm in Lodi, New York, kind of halfway between Geneva and Ithaca. And that was like 12-acre production with permanent beds. And I still reference things that I learned there from Lou and Robin. And that was the real first thought that I had, seasonal life, what is this? Like, I don't have to become an architect just because I'm studying this right now. But after college, I did end up working in nonprofit housing for a couple of years as an AmeriCorps Vista, and then as in the Hudson River Valley. And I happened to date someone who was involved in small organic farming, diversified farming. So there was always this kind of connection to food and where it's coming from. And I don't think I knew very much really back then, but there was definitely this thread starting. And I guess I moved to Vermont in 2008 after working with Habitat Newburgh for a couple of years. And then I just started random jobs such as waitressing. And then when that ended, I moved to a local nursery in Morrisville. And it was a good fit. I had lots of time for recreating and doing other, just adventuring. But it was definitely really insightful to just work for people who had been in business maybe 30 years or so when I worked for them. So they had some solid systems down, and they had very specific methods that they used in management styles. So I feel like I learned just a lot about running a business, even if it was maybe what I wouldn't want to do or things that I would try to commit towards in a different way. I met so many people working at that nursery that it's probably where I met maybe one of my first couple clients who just, really were like, well, do you do any work? And that was like the beginning of some just side work. And that gradually led me to thinking about, well, maybe it's time for me to, cut the cord and go out on my own and just go for it. But I had another, this side vision of growing heirloom bulbs, and a lot of the nursery owners in the area were of an age where they'd be retiring soon. So I thought, maybe I could run a nursery. A lot of thoughts going around, but nothing too solid. But the gardening, once I started working with that, I loved the kind of the digging into soil health and the really focusing on ecological, based design, which is where I would say my niche is. not just I'm not a mulch tosser, just to get it done and be done with it and move on. There's plenty of people out there doing that kind of work, and really looking at long-term relationships with the landscape, the people who are living or working with the spaces, and going from there.
Interesting. So are the gardens that you manage edible gardens or perennial kind of hands-off just maintenance gardens, or gardens where you're, putting in a bunch of annual things too?
Yeah, I would say it's a mix. I feel like there's a growing number of clients who really enjoy that edible landscape, and I'd say 20% of my folks really like getting in their gardens and working. Maybe a bunch of them just focus on their veggies and stuff. But so I might offer a little bit of advice in that realm once in a while, or
to kind
help
of
out,
set it up for them. And
yeah, sometimes. And some people they've been doing it for decades, so they're on a roll, and we'll talk shop a little bit. But then when I mention Ryan's hundreds and hundreds of tomatoes, they get a kick out of that. So, but yeah, mostly I'm doing the ornamental side of it. But I try to encourage people to include edible landscaping. So whether that's, throwing some extra starts in the garden somewhere, or just having pollinators and bird health and all, it's really just about the ecosystem creation and trying to get it rolling to a place where I'm not running around watering, and almost no one really waters their gardens, even if we haven't had rain for weeks on end. So I've seen really good success with some of my practices of it's kind of like no-till farming in a way. It's just, but, using the actual cuttings off the deadheading, I'll just stick right back in the ground, let it decompose. And I've seen some amazing results over the last number of years at places I've been for, 7 or 8 years now. So, yeah.
Residential, commercial, both?
Both, yeah.
What fulfills you in this career?
Probably, I would say, certainly the visual accomplishment, like seeing beautiful spaces take shape and having my clients really appreciate them is really wonderful. And I like talking to my clients too and getting to know them. I think having that community is really important, and those connections. I think that's probably one of the most fulfilling, knowing the satisfaction that people get out of those spaces, even some of the commercial ones. I've got one restaurant, and people know me from that garden, and really enjoy the space that's been created there. Or I'll throw tomato plants in at a business, and then people can, the workers can just be like, oh, I'm going to take some tomatoes home today. And that's great. It just connects, gets people more interactive in these spaces that are normally just a backdrop, which I really like.
Ryan, what fulfills you?
I guess I would say first and foremost the work itself. Kind of that feeling at the end of a really long, hard day or a long, hard week, which, they all are. Yeah, it's really satisfying. I think the relationships too, some of the people that I've met and come into contact, and chefs and, people that I've worked with, other farmers and, all the different people. And I think just eating really good, delicious food is, that's super fulfilling. And seeing, really good food come out of the field, and starting from a seed and then having this beautiful plant that you can eat is very fulfilling.
Do you get to eat your crops a lot? I know a lot of farmers who grow this great organic veg and they're eating mac and cheese for lunch?
We eat tons of mac and cheese. I'd say more frozen pizza. Lots of frozen pizza. Chinese food. Every once in a while. But we do like lots of salads and stuff. And when the tomatoes come in, I'll eat tomatoes. But just quick and easy stuff, stuff you can throw on a plate.
Right.
Or steam really quickly or something like that.
But before having you on the show, you mentioned that you've now been farming for 10 years, which to me is an indicator of success or being sustainable. Because if it wasn't working 10 years in, you're not going to keep doing it. Like you unless you have some outside funding and this is just a fun hobby.
Yeah.
That's sustainable. So what does sustainable mean to you, and what's a time that you felt really successful in this?
Well, I think every year is in the different iterations of my business has seen some growth. Financially and obviously just in the land itself and plant health. And it feels like there's always been just small or large improvements over the years. And I think overall this year, I remember I had the fortune and pleasure to work with Richard Wiswall a little bit. Was it last year, 2 years ago? And it was just great. And I remember him saying something about year 10, there's a shift. And I am feeling that this year. And I think so far this year, I feel just with the relationships that I've created since the beginning, and they feel really solid. And a lot of the kind of thinking about moving in different directions with soil health and the plant health is really good. I just feel really good this year. And it's taken me 10 years to really think, okay, I might actually be good at this. Do you know what I mean? Like it's taken that long to really feel successful in certain ways, and it's still hard to sometimes, like, walking around and seeing the tomatoes the way they were. There's some that aren't strung up, or there's pieces of grass, that's hard, but it's not as hard as it used to be. Cause it just is what it is here, I guess.
I've interviewed several people that have said between years 7 and 10, they really start to feel like they will say have a grasp, or, the flywheel is spinning.
Yeah.
Do you think that's the repetition of the season? Do you think it's the incremental growth in infrastructure, your own knowledge? I mean, all the above, right?
Yeah, I think so. I was thinking about that this year, actually. It's like, because I have experienced significant stress over the years. I mean, we all have, every grower. But a lot of the stress I feel like I've experienced has been my own just thoughts and my own, interpersonal stuff, and was often completely unnecessary. But I think, so I was thinking about your question. I think what it is this year is it's like predictability. It's like, oh yeah, I know those weeds are going to come during this month, or this pest is going to show up now. And it's like, whether I'm prepared for it or not, like I know it's going to happen. And so there isn't as much surprise, like, holy crap, what is this thing that's mowing down all the arugula? It's like, oh, well, you didn't cover it, idiot. So like, you know what I mean? So yeah, there's just predictability, I think, which is super helpful in feeling successful.
I think too, there might be a level of confidence in decision-making, like making some bigger long-term shifts that will get you to a place where you're really confident with or feel like you're just making a decision about your business, but not basing it off of what a particular market might think or react to.
Yeah.
And I can see that as kind of a third person to your business.
Oh, thanks.
It's more of an educated guess and a little less of a gamble, because you've kind of seen success and failure for, like you said, through the seasons.
Yeah. The other thing was that I think the reason why it took too long too is because I'm becoming more and more familiar with this specific location. We've been here 5 years now, but I've been at 3 locations. And so all those years of familiarity and understanding the nuances of a field or of a farm, I've had to start over several times. And so I think just now having this relationship and bond with the soil here and the way that things work and the seasonal changes, that's really helpful too in making decisions and just feeling confident.
Yeah, that's a good point. Knowing the land.
Yeah.
Knowing where water's going to run in the next heavy rain, and knowing where it's cool in the spring, those little pockets, or where the sun comes around. Oh, that bed's going to be shadowed a little longer.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't know that stuff right off the bat.
No. And it's just a relationship. It's just about creating, it's a marriage essentially, and you're learning and growing with this place. Yeah.
You mentioned early on that the farm in Oregon was different. Like growing out there was different. What's a couple of like just high level things that's different than growing in Vermont?
The climate, first and foremost. I mean, that area in the Willamette Valley gets like 9 months of drizzle, essentially like cloudy drizzle and rain, and then it's all summer long. You never see a cloud. It's just like, I mean, there might be clouds, but it's sunny every day, super dry, hot, cold nights, and then just rain all winter. So it's wild. So obviously that, but you can grow year round significantly easier, even without the direct sunlight. You can continue. Even in the winter, I think the lows are like in the Willamette Valley, like the 30s, and you don't see much snow. So that's a big difference when it's negative 25.
So a little more consistent.
Yeah.
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 Interesting.
Yeah. Consistent drizzle. Yeah, it was bad. It was great. I mean, you keep going through it. You just live your life. You ride your bike to work, and you just get a good rain suit, and that's what you do.
Dress for the weather.
Yeah.
So, what made you decide to come to Vermont and settle here?
Well, I think probably the most important thing is my family. I'm really close with my family, and I wouldn't necessarily. I love you guys, but I wouldn't want to live in my hometown. And so Vermont's kind of a happy medium. And, I went to college here, and so I have a connection to the state. And it's just, it's close to being your family. I mean, it was being out west. It's too far.
Yeah.
My sister had a couple kids, and so I had nephews that I wanted to be around, and, that kind of thing. So,
yeah.
And just a familiarity with New England. Yep. So I love it here. So good.
Genica, are you from around here?
I'm from Pennsylvania, and I just I randomly moved here. My sister-in-law was working for the Vermont Youth Conservation Corps one summer, kind of right before she and my brother married the year before. And she said, "You need a change in life. I think you'd like Vermont. There's people with like old time skills, which is right up my alley, and doing music and just a bunch of stuff." And she said, "Why don't you come visit?" And I moved up 2 weeks later. I dropped off some applications. I was like, "I'll be a waitress." Yep. So, so I just it was quite a bold move, but it has worked out very well in the end. Yeah.
Okay, so we talked about a little bit on kind of feeling successful, getting that flywheel spinning. What's a time when you felt really challenged farming?
Well, the easy answer is every day. Obviously, I mean, there's different things to deal with, but I mean, I think those first few years were super challenging because I literally didn't know what I was doing. I had I had the farmer training program 6 months under my belt, and that's all I had. And so it was really challenging in that respect. But I think 2020 was
21.
2021. Mm-hmm. Yeah. was just a super challenging year for me. And I don't even know why, because the business was fine. People were happy with the produce. And I just was dealing with a lot of stress, not sleeping, and just really having some issues with, mental health. And I guess that was probably the most challenging time. Wouldn't you say? Probably for you
yes,
too.
Definitely.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, but
part of life.
yeah, and I don't even really remember why. Like, I mean, the things were weedy, and there was disease and pest issues, and I just was too hard on myself, I guess, and it just it was just really challenging in the moment. So, because I guess I just always felt like the business was just going to like close, just stop, because there was like grass in one bed or something. You know what I mean?
You were hyper focused.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I know the feeling. Yeah. You're so far in the weeds that's all you can think about. And you kind of lose sight of the big picture a little bit.
Absolutely.
Cause you're literally in it.
Yeah.
How did you handle that stress, and what changes did you make to get out of that slump?
You might have to help me a little bit, but I started.
Assuming you're better now.
Yeah, I'm much better. I am better. I'm still in it. No. Yeah, I'm much better. This has been absolutely, so far, knock on wood, I don't want to jinx myself here, but this has been my absolute favorite year of growing, for sure. Just mentally, and just the state of the field, and so I'm very happy this year. I think what I did that time was I started a meditation practice, which I had dabbled in years previous, and yoga. I'm not a certified teacher. I did a lot of yoga in the past, but farming pulled me absolutely away from that. Probably when I needed it the most, I just kind of stopped doing it. So I kind of reinvigorated that practice and tried to drink less. And what else was it? I mean, breathing exercises, things like that, reading books. John Kabat-Zinn helped a lot.
I don't know.
Exercise.
I was going to say, I don't know if you want to mention Farm First at all, but you did.
Oh, yeah.
Call them.
Yeah, I did. That's great. Yeah, I used Farm First, and I ended up I only had 2 phone calls, but they were really helpful phone calls. And then, and I actually did therapy. That's right. I had therapy forgot about that. Oh, that's stupid. I
Blocked it out.
Yeah.
Yoga and breathing, but therapy too.
Yeah, I did too. Yeah. So Farm First was like really incredibly helpful for that. I think I ended up with, it was 6 or maybe 8 sessions or something. It was all, on Zoom or whatever. And they were great, super helpful. And as a result, now there's a new program. It's the peer support program. I'm sure you've heard of it. They presented at VVBGA. So I'm actually a peer support person now for folks that are maybe in a similar situation that might want to reach out to somebody. So the program is basically like, there's people all over the state that have decided to volunteer their time, and there's pictures up on the website, and basically you contact Farm First, and they'll reach out to these people, and you can talk to somebody else who may have gone through something, another grower or farmer, and just kind of connect with somebody who may have some understanding because you know what it's like. It's so specific, it's unique, it's hard for people to understand what we might be going through in a given moment. Farm First was awesome.
So are those sessions just kind of like a venting session with another grower?
I don't know. It's a new program, so there hasn't been there hasn't been a ton of. I'm presently working with somebody, but we're finding a hard time to connect. But I imagine it could be whatever the person needs. It can be a venting session. It can be just like a crying session, or it could be like, hey, have you ever experienced this? Tell me about your experience. It could be probably whatever somebody needs.
Right. So. I'm just trying to think, like, farming is stressful.
Yep.
We all know that. And I think a lot of us don't want to ask for help.
Yeah.
They don't want to ask their spouse for help.
Mm-hmm.
They want to handle it themselves.
Yeah.
What do you think would be the trigger to reach out to Farm First or an organization like that? And what would one expect when they pick up the phone?
I don't know, because I think everybody's different. For me, it was just like, I can't handle this anymore. Like and poor Genica, I was like, she can't handle this anymore. And so it was just like, I got to talk to somebody else. And so it is, you have to be vulnerable. You have to kind of let go of that trait of being like, I can just get through this by myself. And I think that, it's just, I think not being able to manage something on your own is kind of the catalyst, I think. And to answer your other question, what is it going to be like? Or
what would one expect when you pick up the other end of the phone?
Yeah. Did you want to say something first?
I was going to say, I think I may have mentioned Farm First as maybe that's someone you can reach out to.
Yeah.
As just we see it always listed. And I think I bet I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people, if a family member has exposure to what Farm First is, that they can just be like, it's still in your hands, but there is this resource out there that you might be able to get some help from.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's just the folks that are working there, and obviously the peer farmers that are part of the program. I think it's empathy would be the first thing, and just a sort of a connection and a sort of a solidarity, I guess, of knowing what somebody might be going through with farm-related stress specifically.
Right, being a peer-to-peer network, that there's an understanding, that you couldn't share with another family or friend that doesn't know everything that's going on. They don't know the weeds and what does that weed or pest mean to you. Like my buddy isn't going to know that.
Yeah, exactly.
But another farmer would.
Yeah. So it's great. I'm happy to be a part of it, and I just wish I had more time for it too. It's a busy time of year. So,
is it a commitment that you sign up for? Like you said, you wish you had more time for it. Are you turning down like opportunities?
No.
Or what do you mean by that?
No, just that. There's a finite amount of time and energy, and
you wish you could help more.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's the scheduling. It's like you're dealing with two farmers, so it's like, well, that person can reach out at like 5:30 in the morning, but maybe you're not. You're harvesting vegetables at 5:30 in the morning.
I see.
It's like a scheduling thing.
What are you excited about in your next year of farming?
Well, so like I said before, I feel like I kind of have a grasp on this, at least here, and what my own limitations are and strengths. And I think that's just in time because we are going to have a child in mid-August. I think, next year is going to present its own very new challenges. So I kind of feel like I'm happy to have, this a year of confidence under my belt to move into the next year. I think as a result of having a child and starting a new family, I think I'll need to make some changes to the business, which I'm still kind of mulling over right now, and just reducing crops or having more people in the crew, which I'm not super psyched about. Not too keen on having more people here. But there might be a way to obviously, have a different sort of life. So, and then I think just as I've become more familiar with the business and knowing how to change things in order to have a little more free time. And I think that's something I'm looking forward to. And continuing to work with soil health, weed management, and trying to discover ways to have kind of two-prong, attacks, or I don't like that word, but like efficiencies to deal with both of those things, like maintaining soil health, contributing to soil health, and reducing the weeds here on the farm. And increasing production based on that. So those are some big things, I would say.
Yeah. Well, congrats. That's definitely exciting.
Thank you.
Nervous excitement.
Very nervous. Yeah. Mid-August is not the best time, but it is a time.
It's good for my business, which is good. It's before, I think I'll be able to work with my little crew on cutback then and guide that process, which is usually like October-ish.
Yeah.
So
one of my employees is leaving, or I think on the same day, the due date. They're going back to college, so
things will change.
Things will change very drastically and quickly. So I better start those breathing exercises again, I guess.
That's right. Gotta take care of yourself. Is there other things that either of you kind of have implemented on a regular basis to kind of keep you level-headed?
I had a meditation practice for probably a couple of years, and that has not continued this year. I find that when I'm feeling good, it's those practices kind of go by the wayside.
Right.
I feel like a little bit. But I don't know.
I guess I've been working with like not a physical therapist, but a body worker, like it's a type of massage. Just knowing how my body is changing, and in my mind, I'm going to work up until I have a baby, but I'm realizing that's not likely to happen. I need to start maternity leave probably sooner than that. But I'm still going strong at this point. But I think even I took an art class last fall, just doing something creative, and that's totally just fun. It was really great to have that in the fall time, and I think it offered a lot of relaxation and just being creative in a way that I don't have to commodify it. I can just do it for myself, and that was really great. But I think as just conversations with other parents, other farm parents, like making sure that we have those times where we can prioritize our own self as humans in the world, besides just being parents. I think that's a priority for us. And so we've been trying to, vaguely strategize, knowing that we have to meet this new human before we can really know how we're going to need to use those alone times, and perhaps someday like a couple time probably.
Right.
But I think that'll all be part of the learning curve of parenthood and as business owners, I think.
Yeah. I think this year too, it's been a kind of a more consistent schedule, or adhering to a consistency in the schedule. And like we talked about earlier, having, the busy week, and then being able to have these days, even though we're still working, they're not necessarily days off, but just having consistency there with slower times, I think is something that has helped this year. I think more of to answer your question of like having a thing that we do, I guess it's having a consistent schedule. That's something I do.
Do you turn off at a certain time?
Depends on the day.
You got some side eye there.
I don't know. We still
sleep when I sleep. 'Cause I'm sleeping so good this year. Knock on wood there. I haven't slept this good in maybe ever in my life. So that's when it's off.
We still eat dinner at like 10 o'clock at night usually, which isn't great, but
no,
'tis the season.
it is.
Yeah, sleep helps a lot. Good sleep is important.
Yeah. I think when I've been away, like in years past, if we'd go down to like Tuesday Night Live, which is a thing in Johnson, I wouldn't be able to like detach and have a good time. I would still just be super focused. And I think this year I've been able to like disconnect. So that's helpful, I'd say. Yeah. And being able to just like kind of enjoy the moment that I'm in.
I think that to loop back, I think that probably comes with the experience of doing this. Like you know the tomatoes will be okay tonight and they'll make it till tomorrow.
Yes. Yeah. You're right. First year it's like they're all gonna die when it gets dark. Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
What did you envision your farm would look like when you started? Did you have a goal or a vision with what you wanted it to be?
No, not that I can remember. I think it was different because when I first started, I was thinking about the farm with this other person that I was with. I think vegetables, for the most part, I didn't really ever foresee having animals, or like livestock animals. I guess it's kind of this.
Did you? I know initially you went to restaurants and say, "I have this available." Did you then ask them what they wanted, or has it always been just kind of like, "Hey, here's my options"?
Yes, afterwards, and creating those relationships with chefs, like they, I sit down with some of them every year, and they talk about what they want to grow or what they want to have on their menus, or when they change their menus to the summer thing, they say this is what we're going to have, and so initially, I was like, I like to eat that, so I'm going to grow it. I didn't have any markets at all, which was the exact opposite advice I got from a mentor that I worked with. They're like, don't grow anything unless you have the market for it. And I did the opposite of that. But it was that I said, I would say, I have arugula. Do you use arugula? Do you want that? But then over times I've kind of shifted. I mean, there's things that I didn't even know existed that I grow now consistently because it's, a high-end restaurant uses it as a main ingredient in a salad or something like that, And so I've learned a lot through the experience of those chefs that are, constantly refining and perfectionists and things like that. And there's a lot of crossover between growers and chefs, and that's why I like working with them so much.
Have you found the chefs to be pretty knowledgeable as far as regionally grown food or available crops, or have you been like, we can't grow that here?
Depends on the chef for sure. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus.
No okra or oranges coming out of Vermont.
Yeah, no one's asked for papaya or anything like that. But I think it's sometimes some of the timing. Chefs will be like in April, will be like, they may be like, well, when are the tomatoes going to be ready? And I don't heat any of the houses for the tomatoes, and it's like, I haven't even planted those yet. So there's that understanding. But a lot of chefs that are willing to work with farms in the area they understand the nuances of the season, the short season, and what will be available. There's a few chefs that are coming to mind specifically that I've just really absolutely loved working with, and they've just been flexible, and they've just helped me have a business. I guess they were willing to take a chance, and I still work with them to this day.
Yeah, and I think some of those more thoughtful chefs they're preserving when they can, or processing, whether that's making different oils that they're going to flavor something with in the fall or winter when it's available in the summer. Mm-hmm. And it's really great. Or preserving tomatoes. We know a couple of chefs that do that, so that they can have kind of a consistent quality. year round. And it's such a great insight to know that folks are doing that.
That's awesome that chefs are taking the initiative to preserve some of those things.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think the future of your farm looks like? Do you envision it changing much?
Yes, I think so. But I mean, because obviously you can see we're still absolutely in development stage here of trying to get things up off the ground. And as money sort of frees up from some of these main infrastructure projects, I'd like to invest in some different things and different types of technologies. I'd really like to scale back a little bit. I mean, honestly, I would love to just put that whole field in just one big glass bubble. That's what I would love to do. Just have it like all enclosed. But the land doesn't offer that flatness up here. But I think some markets will change. And I think that what I grow will shift a little bit over the next few years, I think. And I think a lot of the decisions that I make moving forward is going to be determined by this little child that's coming in August. That it's a total crapshoot,
Right. Your farm's 100% gonna evolve, but you're not building an orchard or growing grains. You're staying small scale vegetables.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is we're limited by the landscape as well. So I couldn't possibly grow more than 5 acres maybe at the most, unless I start cutting down trees, and I'm not going to get into that. I don't want to do that.
That's a whole nother thing.
Yeah. So we are limited in that respect, and I think just getting smaller and more refined is better. Reduce and refine is what I write everywhere. So.
Yeah, and I think there's also a component because our property is split by our road. We actually have to put in new utilities on the other side.
Yeah,
to be able to. So we're basically dry farming on the south side of the property, and then, but there is some, I think, good opportunity on that side for some just fruit trees, and whether they're partly going to be probably for aesthetic reasons and separation from the road. But certainly they're all probably fruit trees and things like that, if we have a farm stand in the future, that could be an opportunity there.
Yeah.
So long-term thinking, but not committed to anything or tied in, certainly not financially tied to anything at this point.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I definitely do see a farm stand situation here someday in some form. Yeah. And we talk about doing pigs every year, but we haven't done it yet. But maybe just pigs for us.
Right.
So
little homestead hobbies. Yeah.
Yep.
Got to have those too.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to your beginning farmer self?
Chill the heck out, man. Just relax. Not that I relax well now, but just calm down and don't be so hard on yourself. Stress is not good. So, chill out. My mom got me this magnet. It's from Where the Wild Things Are, and it's a kid, I can't remember, and he's like doing this thing at the monsters and just says, "Be still." And that's my motto. But so calm down.
Yeah, and I think to add to that, I would just say don't compare yourself to someone else, especially because you don't know really what their real full story is, number one. And it's just such a waste of energy to be thinking about someone else when you can just, make a decision for yourself about what you have going on.
Yeah, you know yourself best, and you don't know anybody else's situation or their whole story. Yep, that's a good point. That was my questions. Is there anything else that you wanted to share that I didn't bring up?
I mean, I think we're quite proud of the buildings that we've built here, even though certainly building them in an unconventional way. Like the first year, I think we had gotten the posts up on this, and we just had a big pavilion here before we did any excavating. So I wouldn't recommend that. But, it's amazing at least if you have one person who can offer some good guidance when you need it, or a skill set, that you can really do a lot yourself. It definitely takes longer, but I feel like knowing every component in this building and our house as well, it's like, I feel very capable and that makes me feel good. Just like, if we've dealt with some well issues before and done all, replacement work on various components, and, it all feels workable. It's not like, it's astounding and shocking when you don't have water for a day or something, but when you can just like run to the town next over, buy a new pressure tank and install it yourself, that feels really great. And it's not like you have to wait for a plumber to show up, and if it's a weekend, you're in a lot of trouble as far as rates go. So that's been a huge component, I think, of the farm, is that we've been able to do a lot ourselves. And I think once in the big world of loans, like we're not that far in debt compared to some people, which is great knowing that.
Yeah. I just want to say that I'm so grateful for all the people that have come and been a part of this place and to get us where we are now, and farm mentors and extension people and loan officers and just the whole gamut of all the people that have helped us here and been supportive, and of course our families who are incredibly supportive, and we feel very fortunate to have the families that we do. And then of course to Steve Steinbacher, who with this place wouldn't be anything like it is now without Steve. Steve's my father-in-law and her dad, obviously. He's just been so incredible in the work that he's done and the hours that he's put into to help with building, and he's incredible. So, and my parents are too, and your mom.
The family.
The family.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing your story and all that you did. It's great to get to know you and learn more about your farm. If people want to reach out to you, can they do that, and how so?
Yeah. nakedacrefarm@gmail.com. Just my phone number's on the website too. Naked Acre Farm BT, I think. I can't remember what it is. nakedacrefarm.com.
.com.
And that's all.
Yeah. And
Great.
I'm homefrontgardensbt.com.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having us. It's just an honor with all the, like I said, all the amazing folks that you've had on the podcast. I really appreciate being a part of that crew of people.
Hear, hear.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Before you click away, if you'd like to listen to the field tour, that part of this episode starts now. We go outside, we walk around the fields and the high tunnels, listen to the rain, talk about the crops, and how Ryan manages his farm.
I guess we could start. This is our prop house. We could peek in here. This was outside because we had a well emergency. Our well crapped out on us, so we didn't have water for a couple days. Oh, geez. So we were pumping it out of that. But the prop house is the only house we have that has electricity so far. Yeah, so I do micros every week, and then, obviously it's thinning out this time of year because everything's getting out in the field. Right. It's also storage.
I know.
The couch right there.
Living
We don't have
in
a lot of
tiny-
storage in this
tiny
place.
house.
Yeah. So.
And yeah, I've got some of my edible flowers in here. So I grow some of the kind of less hardy, well, anything that's less hardy, I just keep in pots, and they're kind of mother plants. I'll take cuttings and just keep them fresh from year to year.
How do you like your hose trolley?
It's a work in progress. It's good. It's better than it was last year. So every year it improves. I make some improvements on it.
Price looks favorable.
The what?
The price
Yes.
looks
Yes.
favorable.
Yeah. But I saw that online somewhere, and it works pretty well. It's just this hose is a really nice hose, but it's very rigid, and so the pulleys, it twists them all around, so I don't have it oriented correctly yet. I mean, it works fine. I can pull down, but if I'm like coming back on that side, it's kind of a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this is it. Prop house. Spend a lot of time. I have a vacuum seeder that I use and absolutely love. One of the best investments I've ever made. And I made a little insulated.
Yeah, we should go
Yeah.
back and look at that.
So this is the trap door. There's a box outside that I dump my Fort V into with the tractor bucket. This closes for winter. Not insulated, but this house is not very efficient anyway. And then so I have a vacuum seeder that I use for paper pot, the paper pot right here, and then the regular 128s. That's pretty much all I use. And 50s I just hand sew those. And then this is just hooked up to a simple plug, and it turns on, and then I can just kill it with the switch. So.
Did you have a shot back in the box?
Yeah.
Ah.
Yep. It's just a little one.
Yep.
You can kind of.
Oh.
Yeah, it's inside. It's just insulated, so it's not super loud. I mean, it was way louder. Even that. I mean, it's great. Like if I have music going, I can still hear stuff. But the only problem is that this year I had to rig this up because I found a mouse nest in there.
Oh.
They crawled in, and then I was like, I used it the first time this spring, and I was like, this really smells. It's like, what's going on in there? Sure enough.
But they were alive. They
were alive.
They were like getting tortured with
I know.
a
I
whole
couldn't
round
believe
of
it.
seeding.
Yeah, because it was like on, wing, off, and then wing, and they were just in there, probably like traumatized. But it works. It's worked for a couple years. I think next year, once it's empty, I'm gonna redo it, and because I just slapped it together. So, and then these are exhaust fans. I can close those up, and they're insulated. 1-inch insulation that I can close for the winter. So anything to improve, even just a teeny bit to not spend so much on propane is great.
Yeah, exactly.
But we definitely cut our propane costs this year significantly compared to last year. I had a bunch of little greenhouses with the fluorescent lights and stuff, and that was enough heat to like keep it, really nice and warm. Just rigged up hoops basically over the benches, things like that. So that's all down here. And then these are great. Genica found this. This is like the best backpack spray. I love it.
Okay.
My Force is so good.
I heard about it on the No-Till Flower Farmer podcast, and it's super powerful, and the battery is super rugged.
Yeah, it lasts.
I left it outside over the winter, which is a bad decision, but it's been fine. It's been great, and it just recharges. And there's tons of options with it. Very powerful.
Yeah.
I use it for client gardens and spraying apple trees, like 25-foot apple trees and everything, and it works great. Yeah. This is my new little house here. It doesn't look like too much right now, but I can show you inside. And then
Floho.
client plants. So I've got some plantings to do before I can't move anymore.
Yeah, I guess it's good to clarify. Genica has her own business.
Yes.
We could talk about that a little later, but she's
Yeah.
not necessarily part of the farm.
Right.
Right.
She's got HomeFront Gardens. I have Naked Acre Farm. So
Yep.
She's just stealing your
Getting
space, huh?
well, we're going
I've
to talk
always-
about that. Actually,
yeah.
I'm gaining some space coming up.
Right. I've always had kind of this field, except for maybe the first year, I think.
Yeah, there were brassicas in this field the first year.
And so it's kind of a good, actually, sample of how much perennial grass we have and how much we have to deal with.
Yeah.
when we're flipping new ground. So I know it's just going to be a process of constant kind of trying to tending to it to try to kill the
Yeah.
grass. But just a little sampling of the beginning of the flowers. I only have a handful of accounts at this point, so
It's good size.
it's the perfect amount for me to keep busy on the farm. And
So yeah, right here, what you probably just said it and I didn't catch it. What are you doing in here? Because you've got like 6 plants. That's not doing
right,
a
it's
lot.
just edible flowers.
Edible flowers. Okay.
Yes.
So
So
garnish.
Yeah.
and flavor. It is I work with the chefs on
Okay.
their flavor profiles, what they're using them for.
And colors too. They
Yep.
like certain colors and not
And
other colors.
And they look pretty sparse because the idea is, well, some of them are just starting to get going,
Yeah.
but others, it's like you got a deadhead in between each week, even after the harvest, to make sure that there's almost nothing left so that they're going to bud again
Right.
for
it's
the next
early,
week.
And they bush up.
Yep. So I had originally thought that I would do cut flowers on the farm and then also do my gardening business, and that it didn't make sense because I couldn't get the quality of cut flowers that's needed.
Yeah, we were spread way too thin. That was for our first year.
Yeah, and that was the first couple years, but I did it a couple years of, doing some small events, and and then there's some remnants of that in here. I was supposed
So when I said I'm going to gain some space, she's going to be moving the flower side of stuff out into that house, and I'll gain. She's had those beds since 2018,
yeah.
and so I'll be gaining. This will be a fully naked acre house
Yeah.
instead of a
Yes.
split house coming up. So
And there's all these bulbs in these beds, so I'm having a digging party actually this weekend to try to get them out, get them in the field, and then we can tarp it.
yeah,
Yeah.
10
Pretty
o'clock
much.
tomorrow if you want to come.
So a mix of tulips, and which most of those are eaten actually by voles, and but a lot of narcissus. And then these are just self-sown biennials.
Okay.
And then a bunch of self-sown. I haven't seeded calendula in like 3 years, and I get plenty out of what I get here. So what was in the other house was all transplants, seedlings from this house. So
Yeah.
a bit of mayhem that will soon be back in proper control.
So this is, we call this the big house. It's obviously relative, but it's our biggest house. It's 120 by 30. It's a ledgewood. Heirlooms and high looms in here desperately need a pruning. You'll see a lot of the tomatoes we're a little behind on pruning. A former employee who became a friend is my pruner this year, but he's had some family stuff in Belgium. He's from Belgium, grew up in Quebec, and he's been in Belgium for the past month and a half, 2 months, something like that, 'cause he's had some family stuff. So we're, pruning them when we can, but there's, obviously a lot to do this time of year. And then the cukes, funny story here, I did the cukes in white plastic this year. I kind of experimented with a little bit of white plastic in the field. Brassica's in here too. And we spent some time, laid it all by hand. It was really nice. And, one of the people that's working for me, we planted them all out. And I was on my delivery route to CSA, and they called and they said, like 20 of the plants are gone. This was like an hour after we finished, and turns out, then 10 more were gone, 20 more were gone, and they were just like getting just ravished by a vole. And so we tried castor oil.
Sounds like you'd watch it happen.
Yeah,
I've been
it
here.
was like Caddyshack kind of situation where it's just like they were just getting like sucked down under the plastic, but they weren't eating them. They were just like chopping them down and just leaving them there, which was so annoying. It's just like, just eat it, if you're gonna take it, eat it. But they're gross. It's cucumber plants. They probably taste terrible. So I called Genica, and Genica came out and put down castor oil. that did nothing. And so the only thing we could do, I just came down with scissors and just cut it.
Yeah.
And so
no white plastic.
no, well, it's going to go back. I'm going to fold it back over and staple it. So the other thing was these beds were very minimally turned over. I was kind of starting to sort of experiment with like some no-till, low-till stuff, and my expectation was that I could tarp it all and all the weeds and all the stuff that I'd cut. I basically flail mowed it and then broad forked it and then tarped it and then put the plastic on. So there's a lot of like organic material in the top of the bed, which was going to break down for the plants, but now it's exposed, so they're growing again.
The rodent pressure was due to the plastic, you think?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm doing a lot more plastic landscape fabric everywhere this year just to try and mitigate some weed control. I've committed to kind of plastic culture in some spots just to help with weed pressure this year because it's been out of control for a long time. And it's going well, but I realize, you start something else and there's another thing that you hadn't thought about. And for me here anyway, the rodent pressure has been out of control with the plastic. It's been crazy. So like eating things that they would, like pepper plants, cucumber plants, more than half of the lacinato kale plants, but like super selective about things. It's just, so I can't figure it out.
This year? Or is
This
it
year.
Always, okay.
Yeah, because I've used more plastic this year than I ever have. Like I said, to help with weeds,
Right.
which has been great in that regard, but not so great in this other regard. Even just from day one, essentially, from the first plantings in the houses, like broccolini plants were just like half just decimated, So traps, I found, I get big old cardboard rolls, like 8-foot rolls, and I cut them down into sections like this and just put 2 traps in. That helps a lot. I didn't catch anything in here, but once I cut the plastic open, they didn't come back. They were just gone.
Interesting.
So we replanted some, and I had some left over. So we'll have a full bed. But once the plants are bigger and trellised, I'll put it back in and staple it up. So
How do you like your tomato trellising system?
it's good. It's better than it used to be. The roller hooks are pretty nice. I wish that we had put this house a little taller. I wish that we had brought it up a little higher. The cross ties seem really low in this house, but so the plants, they grow significantly higher than the top of the thing. So, but I do like it.
Do they have a ratcheting mechanism on them? I've seen them, but I haven't really.
It's not ratchet. It's like like kind of a spool situation. So it's like basically a thing that stops it. So as the thing comes down, that's what locks it. But then you just pull that up.
It's
and
got like a cam.
Yep. So it's like that. And then you just. So then what I'll do is I'll just come through at the end of the year, like cut these all with, like pull it up, cut them all with scissors, and then just like, snap this and bring it out. And then next year they'll just be here ready for the next
spool. You
crop.
just grab it, pull it down.
Yep. And you don't need to like tie anything. You can just.
Are you
just keep
stapling
going.
it to the ground?
No. No. They're all.
Just hanging the plants.
Yeah.
Are you lowering and leaning with this?
I would like to. I think with the cukes this year, if they stay healthy, I've had a lot of problems with cukes disease. They don't. I don't prune them or anything like that. I probably should, but I did last year lower and lean. There's a cherry tomato variety that I grow. That's just like. It's prolific. The plant gets huge. There's like just a ton of tomatoes. It's Sakura, I think it's a Johnny's. I get it at Johnny's, and those plants are just huge plants. And so I lowered those last year. But yeah, so this is one house.
Your drip tape I see
Yes,
hanging off the wall.
last year's drip tape. So I reused some of it and some of it I put in new. Yeah.
So when you're cleaning out the house in the fall, you just take the tape and tie it up on each end, and
Yep,
then
pull it.
it's ready for the next time.
Tie it on this end, the top end, and then I just bring it and kind of tie it up and get it real tight.
Yeah.
And then it just stays there. And then as it gets warmer, it just like droops. So you gotta like redo it in the spring. But so those are just leftover. I put in new. Obviously for the aromas, I put in a new line, and some of them you can see they got couplers on them. If they have couplers, I usually don't reuse them again. But just to get them up and out of the way, I put them on that side. It's double inflation, 2 inflators.
So you're using 2 inflators to because there's so many holes, you need that much volume.
Holes, and that one wasn't doing it on
The
its own. Yeah.
yeah, that first year there was plastic on this house, 2018-19, that winter. We had so much snow that it was just like sagging, and we didn't have a tractor mounted snowblower yet, so we were just doing everything on snowshoes and shovels.
Yeah.
So it was
was
intense.
We were like standing up over the hip board, like digging down. Oh, it was terrible. Snowshoes. And
So
I
we
remember
did.
before VBBGA, remember that meeting? We woke up at like 5 a.m. to shovel the house out, trying to get down to the meeting. It's just ridiculous. Yep, bird netting. Got to get that on as soon as possible. We have a significant problem with birds eating fruit in our
You're gonna hang that over the doors?
the sides,
Oh, okay.
sides, and any opening basically. Our friends have like a screen. It's like a magnetic screen thing
Yep.
for the door. I'm gonna see if I can get one that's this big just for
That's a good
the
idea.
doors. Yeah, because I don't know what else I could do. They're gonna find a way in, but if I can just mitigate it a little bit. I mean, they come in and they go to town, especially on the heirlooms. So it's like
And they really like the yellow tomatoes and
And the
like
reds.
the orange.
and the purples, the greens.
Anything fancy.
I think they just like tomatoes. But yeah, they do. The orange ones they go for the first. Like the striped Germans. Oh my God, you have this like big. You'll have like this, or I'll have like a big, beautiful striped German that's almost ready, and then sure enough, just. It's their storage area. I lived in that camper the first 2 years. This is my brassica field for the most part. In the process of kind of flipping this over to, I have some 3-foot ultra web that I'm going to use for the pathways because obviously, pathways are in pretty rough shape. But so I'll lay that down, and then the idea is like with the plastic culture next year, this will be, there'll be, the weed pressure will be significantly reduced.
Yeah.
So, but I never really, the pathways are always a mystery to me. Keeping them clean, I think.
Like how to keep them clean?
Yeah, just like
Yeah.
the best way. Like, we have a couple cultivating tractors, but I haven't had really great luck with that. Especially down in that area, it's tough. Like maybe like a belly mounted kind of thing, but on the slope, it's tough. Like one year would just go, and like this one would be like, not doing anything, and this one would be like way too deep, and then I'd have to come back and do the same thing on the other side. So it's just tough, like figuring it out. So I think this year I'm just going to do ultra web. Yeah, I'm very new to tractor cultivation. It's not a skill that I have. No, I mean it's not like your typical. It's not like an ideal. That's not the word. It's not like your regular farm like you would think of, like a typical farm. But we love it here. I mean, I feel like it's super protected with the woods, and there's tons like habitat for all sorts of different things. And I think pest pressure isn't maybe as significant as other places because of that reason.
And I would say part of it is like where we're located because of the, I'd say, tourist value of just being in between several mountain towns.
Yeah.
The real estate is just like out of control as far as a practical minded we want to farm. And we both had existing businesses when we met and decided to, buy something. So it was like we were in a spot where we would automatically be limited unless we wanted to add another hour commute or something onto.
Yeah. I remember we looked in Stowe, and there was 2 5-acre plots together that could have been 10 acres. It was flat, and it was $500,000 for 10 acres. We were like, oh, with nothing on it. We were like, okay.
And flooding potential.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is beets and lettuce. You can see, we're still dealing with like a grass a little bit, but this is definitely an improvement from the past for sure. So those are all paper potted. The beets, I do beets in paper pots. Actually, the gems are all paper potted. The head lettuce right here that's all hand transplanted, but
How long have you been using the paper pot?
3 years maybe. Yeah.
Liking it?
I don't know. The jury's still out, I think, on that. It's definitely got its benefits, but I think our soil is not very well suited to it because it's very rich soil and there's a lot of stones in our soil, like stones of all sizes. Yeah. But I mean, the soil is beautiful. It's great, but I mean, that thing will be, I mean, it's bouncing all over the place, so keeping lines straight is very challenging. Burying the chains are very challenging. I have another tool that I come back and I have to it's just part of the protocol. It's like I pull it out and then I hit it with this tool. It's kind of like a closer on the thing. And so that's just part of it. But there's still, it reduces the time dramatically, even still. But there is, I find, especially with the lettuce that I do, like the salad mix, it takes a long time for it to get growing, as opposed to like this,
And I think the other thing we've observed is just that compared to if we were going to direct sow something like this, we still are competing with so much grass that it's almost impossible to direct sow something and get this nice thick crop happening. Same with like the beets. It's been so much better. It may be
stunted, but it's got a head start.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, like the beets can be stunted. This type of the gems can be stunted. Like frisee, I do it in paper pots. Like those things, that's fine. It's the lettuce, like the salad mix. I want to have that like obviously every week, and when that crop is held up a little bit, it's challenging. The other things can wait. Like I mean, no one's going to be like pounding the door down for beets. You know what I mean? It's like, where's my beets? But yeah, the salad mix. I mean, it used to take me, I can do like 3 times the amount of space in the same amount of time or a little bit less that it took me hand transplanting. So there's definitely a reduction. This looked so much cleaner yesterday. What the heck? Just a little bit of rain. What the heck?
And we do have, erosion issues here for sure. So like like this is part of that mitigation process.
Oh, you can see it right there.
Oh yeah, that's really bad.
This field all needs to be tarped. It should have been tarped like 2 weeks ago. That was the plan. But you can see the erosion issues that we have. I mean, just on the slope, this kind of comes down this way and then pitches this way. So it's just like water. And that's not great.
When we get these downpours, does it wash out your plants bad?
Thankfully not too bad this year yet. I mean, obviously that was not great, but that's a result of like having the black plastic there where the squash is. But if we get like a significant, downpour, which thankfully we have not, like this would be washed out. Yeah. So next year I got to figure, I'm kind of slowly thinking about moving towards like sort of a low till, no till. I mean, I haven't used a tiller yet this year. I actually didn't use it all last year either.
Wow.
So moving that way, but still, I mean, this is loose soil, right? So trying to think about like living pathways maybe, or mulch, straw mulch, or everything on landscape fabric. I don't know yet exactly what it's going to be. That'll be like winter pondering, I think, next year.
So
and doing some research.
If you haven't used the tiller, what prep are you doing ahead of paper potting?
So I have paper pots that's a interesting, a lot of tarping to get rid of like any residue, stuff like that. But basically this field was, what did I do with this field? That field was, I use a disc, that field I used a disc this year, and then a bed shaper because the weeds weren't too bad, like there wasn't a lot of material in there. But I also have a chisel plow that I use, and then come in with a bed shaper. And then if there's like a lot of residue or stuff that is going to get in the way of the paper pot, I have a BCS and I have a PDR on it. So it's kind of like it's a depth. Have you seen them or heard of them? Yeah. So I'll do that at like an inch, and just create like a fluffy little top. And that helps. Just like tilther.
Shallow working.
Yeah, like a tilther, essentially like a tilther kind of situation. The same thing as like a power harrow would do for the BCS. And so the BCS is 30 inches wide. These beds are 42, 44-ish. And so I have to do 2 quick passes, and I just do a quick till, and then that's enough. Or what I've been doing this year is kind of using the wheel hoe and then raking it out a little bit too. So getting the residue out, then raking that stuff out, then using the paper pot. So it's a process, I feel like. But, I mean, it's a market garden essentially, but like I tractor farm on a market garden sort of thing. It's kind of ridiculous, but it works, and I love using the tractor. So that's just kind of what we do. Now, don't take pictures of this, or you can. This is my ultimate nightmare. So this was planted in March. This was obviously the Pac-Man style, and it has been amazing for yields for sure. This thing has been weeded probably 3 or 4 times, and it is painstakingly slow and challenging. You have to be basically like a gymnast to weed these beds, because you got to come in and find a path, and then tiptoe your way through, and so we have a significant chickweed problem in these houses. It's not great. So, but this is second cut coming down. And it's bolting and bitter, so I didn't want to come in and weed it again. So definitely lots of lettuce came out of this little area, more than I can handle.
Pac-Man, good or bad for you?
I think it needs to be done differently. This is all paper pot, and so I think if I could take part of a house out of production for a month or 2 months leading up to a fall planting or a spring planting, I think that would help, just tarp it. But I think what I might move towards is landscape fabric, and then just burning the holes and hand transplanting. I mean, it's super slow. I would imagine that's just going to be a very, very slow process, but no weeds, and then you don't have that problem of worrying about planting dates, because, did I do the planting date well, or is it going to be set back because of the paper pot, not taking root right away? So I think that's going to be what it is. But this year is going to be challenging because we have something happening. So I don't know, hope I can get it all in. So it might be another year of paper pot and chickweed nightmares. And then these are the cherry tomatoes and peppers that were a little bit devastated by mice and voles in the spring.
Are you hand harvesting this or quick cut harvesting?
No, not quick cut. I cut it all by knife.
So you can avoid the weeds.
Yeah.
And
I mean
that out later.
Yeah. This is bad, but I could still come in through, and it's super easy. Just it's surrounded, but you just write like this, and and there's no weeds. So, and we go through it up there in the wash pack, but for the most part, it comes out pretty clean. But honestly, weeks before this, it's been really clean. I've had a great crew this year so far. Very small crew, but who's willing to spend some hours doing this. So, but it's mostly chickweed with a little shepherd's purse, and it's just, the chickweed is just really, really bad here. So I'm looking into thinking about, I don't really want to steam, so I'm trying to figure out different ways of going about that. And I think what it is it's just tarping and taking little areas out of production, which I was talking to James at Trillium Hill, and he said that he found that tarping, certain areas that were tarped had less issues with cutworm, winter cutworm too. So that's kind of a dual benefit, I think, of tarping, because we have some serious winter cutworm issues too in the fall. Yeah, this was all planted in March, so it's ready to be done. It's getting pretty bitter. But yeah, I mean, it's great. And I mean, you can see that little area. This is a second cut, so it wasn't as big. Down there is the first cut. That little tiny area that you're seeing by the bucket was probably 70 pounds or something like that. Wow. So it's a significant amount of yield coming out of a very small space. Next year, the fall, when we get over there, there's a new house that I built last fall that's going to be entirely, the whole thing's going to be lettuce. That's the plan anyway. Let's see what happens. See what happens in August. But and these obviously need significant pruning too, and I just get behind on tomatoes. And then back on that side of the house, it's a pretty wet area. It's getting better. I need to put in drains on the side because I mean the way the slope works, everything comes off, and the rain off the houses doesn't help either. So our soil's so rich that it'll stick to the bottom of the paper pot, and then the trench, it just won't bear anything. So it'll just like dig out and just like lay the chain down. And it's like, This is one of my first houses.
Yeah.
You can tell. It's the janky house.
It's
the
got
one
the
that
best
was over there was
plastic, though.
even worse, man. It was pretty bad. So when I first started, my dad, he's a land surveyor, and he was doing this job, and there was somebody had leased some land, a farm had leased some land, and they just disappeared. They were just gone. So they left everything. And the landowner was like, he had hired this company to come and just like get rid of everything. My dad called me and was like, hey, you want some greenhouses? And I was like, yeah, what are they? And so I went down, and there was like a big party, and he helped, take it all apart. And I got 4 janky houses like this for like $2,300. And starting out was great. We just had to put in the labor to get it out of there and stuff. Right. So either that or it was going in a dumpster. Which was like
And they were shorter to
They were
begin
shorter,
with.
so I extended them up, and this is one of them. There were 4 total. There's only 2 left in existence. 2 of them were over there in a pile. So I feel like this is a good view of the evolution of the farm. This is like first starting janky house. This is the last house that was built, and it's got like, drill roll up sides and double inflated, and I'm very happy with this house.
Yep.
This is kind of a Ledgewood Rimmel combo.
Yeah.
Like the hip boards are the metal Rimmel things that they sell. I grew such crappy celery last year that I was like, I just want to see if I can grow it. and it's actually, it's pretty good.
It tastes good.
Yeah. I'm pretty happy with it. Oh, I shouldn't crunch with the mic, huh? It's going to be like super crunchy.
It's coming down.
Andy, I'm going to close up some sides, all right? I'll be right back. I love this thing. It's the best for the roll-ups. It's so much better.
Than hand cranking.
Oh yeah, or like, yeah. I've had some close calls with roll-up sides. Just the systems that we have here, getting hit in the head and the hand and the face.
Yeah, a friend of ours has honeybees here the last, 2 years?
Yeah.
So it's been cool to see them going all around, especially to different, just native plants as well as in the houses.
So this is all my cut greens and salad production for, like retail bags and restaurants and things like that. So lettuce is kind of on the far side. There's a really weedy bed of carrots right there. And then kind of week to week, I just keep moving this way. And so the tarps, so these are all tarped. The first beds over there were tarped all winter. And then this will essentially just start on that side. I've started on that side the first time of the year, and now I'm moving back this way. So, it's just kind of a rotation with the tarps. It's been really good this year, actually. But the tarps are kind of a bear to move, especially the 50-footer. 50 by 100 is really a pain in the butt, especially with all this rain.
Yeah.
It just makes it really heavy.
You can't roll puddles very easily.
No. So, but for this, if it's we don't have super great irrigation, so if we don't get rain, what I'll do with these tarps is kind of I'll seed everything, water it in if I need to, and then fold it back over, and then like 2 days later, everything is germinated. Yeah, and then protect net for bugs.
Yeah.
Yeah, we struggled for a long time with just I struggle with disease, lots of disease issues in the grass because under row cover it's just hot and moist, and we have a lot of rhizoctonia in the soil anyway that's present, and it just would present in the greens all the time, so it's hard to sell them. So those beds that are open are ready to be mowed. I'll come in with the flail mower, flail mow them, put down any fertilizer, and then do like that light till on the top with the PDR. This is koji from Johnny's, and it's great. Usually isn't as diseasey, but. And then there's arugula on the other side.
Yeah.
So it's a mix of kale, tatsoi, mizuna, red mizuna, and just kind of a mixed greens thing. Kale. 2 more houses, and then head up. Okay. So this is a tomato house, it's called. And I am redoing the trellis system, so these are not fully trellised just yet, although they did get a good pruning here. These are all hybrids. This is all the hybrids that I grow. So it's hybrids in here, heirlooms up there, cherries in there, and cherries in there.
There's a lot of tomatoes.
Yeah, I increased the spacing this year, or decreased the spacing, increased the amount to, these are all at 12 inches, just single liter 12 inches. So we'll see how it goes. Hopefully Augustine comes back soon. There's 5 varieties. Yep. This is the south rim. This is a rimall. That's the north rim, south rim, both rimmalls. I had this year again the spring kale bolted on me. Like last year, I thought I'm still trying to figure out why this is happening. But so this house is in the process of being flipped from spring kale, which I was hoping would be productive longer, but can't seem to figure it out. But the lacinato is doing fine. So it was all planted at the same time. And then cukes and frisee over there. So that's it. And then we have some stuff across the road, but we kind of neglect that side of the road anyway. So we'll just we'll end it there. These are just legumes, peas, and beans for CSA. And that's it.
I'm Andy Chamberlain, and that was The Farmer's Share. I hope you enjoyed this episode with Ryan and Genica of Naked Acre Farm and HomeFront Gardens. I'm excited to share that this show has been awarded a grant offered by the USDA Specialty Crop Block Program from the Vermont Agency of Agriculture, Food and Markets. This funding will help cover some of my time and travel in order to produce more episodes of this podcast for the next 2.5 years. So you'll be happy to know that I plan to keep producing this show for a while. The USDA Ag Marketing Service supports projects that address the needs of U.S. specialty crop growers and strengthens local and regional food systems. I have no doubt that this podcast will meet those needs and help educate growers to support the industry. The Farmer's Share is also supported by the Vermont Vegetable and Berry Growers Association and the Ag Engineering Program of the University of Vermont Extension. If you enjoy the show and want to help support its programming, you can make a one-time or a reoccurring donation on our website by visiting thefarmershare.com/support. You can visit thefarmershare.com to listen to previous interviews or see photos, videos, or links discussed from the conversation. If you don't want to miss the next episode, enter your email address on our website and you'll get a note in your inbox when the next one comes out. This show has a YouTube channel with videos from several of the farm visits. We're also on Instagram, so that's where you can be reminded about the latest episode or see photos from the visit. Lastly, if you're enjoying the show, I'd love it if you could write me a review. In Apple Podcast, click on the show, scroll down to the bottom, and there you can leave 5 stars and a comment to help encourage new listeners to tune in. I'd also encourage you to share this episode with any other grower friends or crew who you think would get inspiration from it. Thanks for listening.